Hello, I'm still waiting to see if anybody gets in. Oh, okay. Hi, welcome to my live stream. I'm sorry that the video is not clear enough. It's nighttime where I'm at, and I'm just using the laptop camera. Uh, I want to start talking right now because at least I have one person who's listening to me. So, as you guys already know, my name is Marceline Atino Onyango, aka Mercy Atis. And I promise that I'm gonna use my channel to help people to heal from abuse, from trauma, from injustice, from emotional and physical pain. Right now, as we live in the world, it is full of grief. People are dying left, right, and center. There are war raging from the Middle East between Israeli and Palestine or in Gaza. And there is another war, Russia and Ukraine, and there's people that are sick. And when these wars are going on, people are keeping on like losing their loved ones every single day. And today my question is it possible to heal if you lose a loved one? After death of a loved one, can you even heal? Is it possible to heal? And before I move on with my topic today, I want to share my own personal story. I want to share my own personal story. I hope that my voice is loud and clear. And I remember in my life that I have lost three people that really matter. The first person that I lost was my real biological mother. The second person that I lost was my brother. And the third person that I lost was my father. So I just want to share with you guys this story that my mother died more than 20 years ago. But still, when I talk about it today, it still feels like it just happened, like it's happening all over again. So if I just talk a little bit about my mom, my mother, as I remember her, was a very beautiful woman, and she was tall and dark skinned, and she had long, beautiful hair. I was very close to her, and I remember that she used to work hard a lot. She mostly worked hard in the farm, tilling the land. So I remember that I was in high school when my mom passed on. First, there was a visiting day. Yeah, my mother used to visit me in school at Nia Girls High School. Every single visiting day, she never missed. So there was a visiting day that my mother didn't come. Just allow me to call her mama. So mama didn't come for visiting day. And when she missed it, I was mad. So when I closed school, I didn't understand why she didn't come, but I went to the hospital where I was taken, and I was shocked to see that my mother, who had long hair, the hair had already been cut off, and she was very thin. I learned later that she had suffered from a stroke. When my mother saw me, she started to cry a lot. Fast forward the story. Um, I spent the holiday at home, mostly sad. And then during the school holiday, I remember again that my mom was brought from the hospital back to our house in the village. And the day that I was going back to high school, I was in boarding school at Mia Girls High School, I remember that we hugged, and she told me that she will come for visiting, and I really believed her. So in Form 3, we were doing exams called index numbers exams, and these are the examinations that we do in Kenya to prepare you for the fourth form, yeah, for the 12th grade, where now you're gonna sit for the National Examination Council. So we were doing examinations, and I remember very clearly that it was on a Wednesday, and on this Wednesday, we always had rice in school, and rice was like my favorite dish in school at Nia Girls High School. So this day I was just feeling low, like I was feeling down, like I wasn't happy at all. I was singing sad songs, and one of the songs I was singing goes like this: Mashaka mashaka twayaona, huzuni huzuni umeingia, nikimbie wapi nijifiche, kimbilio langu ndiye Yesu. That song means that sadness is coming. Where shall I run? And I shall run to Jesus. And the day, Wednesday, we went to the dining room to eat rice, but it didn't feel like normal. So just shortly after lunch, I was called, and I was told that the deputy principal, Mrs. Masese, was calling me in the staff room. So I was like, Mrs. Masese was the strictest staff member at Nia Girls High School. She always dealt with a lot of disciplinary cases. So when I was told Miss Masese was calling me, I was scared. I was like, oh my God, what did I do? So I went to Miss Masese's office. And when she saw me, she got scared. Like in Swahili, we say alishtuka. Yeah. She looked at me and she was scared. And I was like, what is going on? So Mrs. Masese asked me, are you Marceline? And I said, yes, madam. Are you Marceline Atieno? And I said, yes, madam. Are you Marceline Atieno Nyango? And I said, yes. And it was like she was still in disbelief, yeah. At Nia Girls High School, I was one of those students that was very disciplined, and many teachers liked me. I didn't have a lot of disciplinary cases. So Mrs. Masese told me that your your father wants to see you at home. And I just knew that something was terribly wrong. I knew at that moment that my mother had died. And I started to cry. And she's like, what's wrong with you? You don't want to go home? You finished your exams, right? And I said, yes. You don't want to go home? Everybody wants to go home. Why are you crying? Did you think something wrong has happened? And I said, I think something happened. And she asked, what do you think happened? And I said, I think my mother died. And she said, no, 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 no. Your mother did not die. Your dad wants to see you. He came back to the village. And this is where I knew she was lying, yeah, because my dad lived in the village. My dad was already retired. So when she said my dad had come to the village and wanted to see me, I knew that something was wrong. So I just remember that I left Miss Masese's office just crying endlessly. And I went to my class to take my bag. She gave me some fare to get to the village. And everybody was asking me, Mercy, what's wrong? What's wrong? And I wasn't talking to anybody. As soon as I stepped out of the gate at Nia Girls High School, I remember that I was just walking and crying, and there was a parent who had visited his daughter. Yeah, Nia Girls is only a school for girls. And when he saw me walking alone and crying, he offered me a lift. The lift was going from Nia Girls to Siaya. Siaya to Nia, we used to pay like public transport, like 20 Kenya shillings. So it's very close. So this guy offered me a lift to Siaya. When I got to Siaya, I was now supposed to take the public transport, which we call matatu, from Siaya to the village. And at this point, I was just guessing that maybe my mom died, but I wasn't sure. So when I got on the matatu, I remember it was packed. It was those days when the Kenyan public transport used to get packed a lot. So it was fully packed. And then people always talk to each other inside the matatu. So I remember that there is a woman who was talking and asking everybody. And the woman was saying, I'm going to a funeral. And the funeral is in a village. And she started saying, they were telling her to give more details. And she said, well, the woman who died is my cousin, and she was married to a teacher. And then she continued to describe my mom on and on and on and on. And this was how I confirmed my mother's death inside a matatu. And I remember just bursting out and crying and crying and crying and crying. The matatu conductor wanted to kick me out. And the people in the matatu, they told him not to kick me out because couldn't he see clearly that I had lost a parent. So people were just telling this woman, just get off where she gets off and then just follow her and you're gonna get to where she's going. And then the woman looked at me, the woman who was asking for directions to the funeral. She looked at me and she said, oh my God, oh my God, she looks exactly like her. This is her daughter. This is her daughter. This is the one that was in school at Nia. Oh my God. And she started screaming. Ooh, in Africa, when somebody dies, people scream a lot. She was screaming. So I was crying. She was crying. I was crying. She was crying. We were crying the whole time until I don't know how we got to the bus stop. When I got off, I just don't know how I walked all the way home, but the images are still very, very vivid and very, very, very clear in my mind of how, when I got home, I found that my mother was dead and she was laid in the sitting room of our house. She was laid on the floor and she was laid on sand. They had picked some sand from the river and she was wearing her cloth, her white dress that she always wore to like Holy Communion services at Uranga SDA Church. So I remember just crying and touching her and talking to her and saying, Mama, Mama, it is me, Mercy. I'm here. Mama, get up. Let's go to church. Mama, please, please, can you hear me? I touched her hands. I cried and I cried and I cried. I tried to open her eyes. Nothing was happening. I tried to open her hands. I tried to do everything to make Mama wake up. I said, Mama, it's me, Mercy. Wake up, talk to me and talk to me. And I was crying and I was screaming at the top of my voice. And the next thing that I remember, I couldn't believe that my mom died. Yeah, I couldn't believe it. And the next thing I felt was anger. When I looked inside my mother's house, there were people that were sitting. They were filled in the house and they were eating and they were drinking, even alcohol. In my entire life, I had never ever seen alcohol in our house. And now that my mother was dead, how are they drinking alcohol in our house and eating? And how are they eating? And my mother was laying on the floor, on the sand, and dead. So I was just screaming and screaming and screaming and crying. And then my oldest sister, she came, she took my hands, and she started walking with me all around the home, outside the home, everywhere. She was with my niece Sharon, and she was walking and walking and walking me everywhere, long, long walks. And she was talking to me. This was my oldest sister, yeah, oldest sister from my mother. My dad had a polygamous family. My dad had two wives. So my oldest sister from my mom's side, she was walking me and she was talking to me and she was telling me, please, please, Mama has lived her life. Please let Mama go and rest. Please, Mercy, she has lived her life. You're still young. You still have life ahead of you. And if she's dead, let her go and rest. Just let go. She talked to me and she walked me for around 2 hours. And at the end of 2 hours, I don't know how we got home, but the day that I was brought to my mother's funeral was the day before her burial. Okay, I'm shaking right now talking about this because it just feels like it's happening all over again. So in the nighttime, there were choirs from all over. My mother was a Seventh day Adventist. So they had like choirs from all over. And they had people singing. And before my mother died, I had attended many, many, many funerals in the village, and we had sung and marched and encouraged the bereaved, but it was not the same when it came to my own mother. So I remember in the somewhere I was with the church people, and somewhere in the middle of the night they brought a coffin to put my mother inside. They brought a big coffin, wooden coffin, and I was screaming and crying and I was saying, no, no way, no way, no way. You're not gonna put my mother inside that thing. Don't put my mother inside there. Don't put my mother inside there. And they went ahead and put her anyway. And I don't know how the night went, but uh, the next morning, I remember that it was the burial day, and it was the burial day of my mother. And it's so hard talking about this. I remember that they set up a tent somewhere, and I don't know how the whole thing went. And I just remember my dad saying that in their whole marriage they never had a fight. So I burst out again. I was crying and I was crying and I was crying and I was taken behind my stepbrother's house by my brother. Yeah, my brother at this time was studying theology at the University of Eastern Africa, Paraton, and he took me behind a stepbrother's house, and she was shaking me and talking to me and saying, "Mercy, Mercy, 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 why are you crying like that? Why are you crying as if there is no hope beyond the grave? Don't you know that you will see Mama again at the resurrection when Jesus comes back? You will see Mama again. Stop crying like that. Stop crying like there is no other hope. Like you will never see your mother again." I stayed with my brother during the whole funeral behind the house, and I never saw my mother being buried. And I remember that the next thing that I saw was just soil. She had been put in the coffin, she had been buried, and she had been covered with soil. This was the beginning of the end of my life that has seemed a nightmare, like throughout. This was the beginning of anger for me, and this was the beginning of everything that I've gone through in my life. Today, I'm not here to really feel sorry about myself and my mother. I'm here to talk to somebody who may be experiencing grief and loss. And the big question I'm asking today, is there even hope? Is there even any possibility that you can heal? I honestly don't think that it is possible to heal from the death of a loved one. I only think it is possible to cope because you have no other option but to cope. People go through different emotions from denial to anger to acceptance. And somebody's talking to me. Let me see. Somebody's saying something. Thank you, Queen. Thank you, Queen. Oh, somebody also said something. Said Cody and then retracted. So what I'm saying is this. Yeah. Can you heal after grief? Can you heal after you lose a loved one? I don't think you can heal. I don't believe that you can heal. I believe that you can only cope. And so, what you're supposed to do is to learn how to cope, how to deal with. Yeah, right now in Palestine, people are losing their whole family, getting swept left, right, and center, and just babies are left. Will they ever heal? I don't think so. They just have to learn to deal with the pain. If you have lost a loved one and you lived in one of those Western countries, they have support groups that you can go to, they have counselors that you can go to, they have they have sometimes you have only family members that you can talk to. But over here in Africa or over there where there is war raging, I just want to encourage you and advise you that this time may be dark, but for sure, morning will come and you will be able to cope. You won't be able to heal, but you will be able to cope. And I want to tell you that some of the things that you need to do in order to cope with the loss of a loved one include things like walking. Yeah, just take a walk. Just take a walk. Like I told you, when my mother died, my oldest sister walked with me in the village for like more than 2 hours. She was just walking and walking and walking with me and talking with me. When you're walking, when you're doing exercise, it helps a little bit to relieve the pain. Yeah? Try to just take a walk. Don't lock yourself inside a room. Don't be closed. Don't close yourself, because if you do that, you're gonna fall into a depression. You're gonna fall into a depression. So if you're dealing with the loss of a loved one, just try to take walks. Short walks, long walks, whatever walks is one of the steps to healing. The other step to healing is to make sure that uh, you take care of yourself. Yeah, take care of yourself. Try to take care of your body. Try to eat. Most of the time when somebody loses a loved one, you don't want to eat anything. You don't want to talk to nobody. You don't want to do anything. Yeah, like depression kicks in almost immediately. So try to take care of yourself. Try to eat healthy. Try to drink water. Try to drink water. Try to do whatever, even that helps you to cope, even just a little bit. I want to tell you right now that if you are dealing with loss, uh, you can also heal. But like I said, by meditation. Yeah, if you're somebody who knows how to meditate, just breathe in and out and just try to meditate. Yeah, we should not forget that when somebody dies, this song applies, okay? And basically, what this song that I'm about to sing, it means that the people have left behind a whole bunch of memory. So, however you choose to grieve, you should always remember to celebrate the life of the person who has passed on. Yeah. Today, in the world where we live in, you can find that somebody, maybe your mother, your father, wherever they are, they probably uh, had a cause that they believed in. They have a charity that they used to donate to. That is why sometimes people start foundations in the names of people who have passed on. People sometimes start foundations, yeah, non-profit organizations to remember that person. The person who dies, usually they leave behind clothes, they leave behind photos, videos, belongings, jewelry, houses. Sometimes, yeah, you don't have to fight over these things. In Africa, it's so sad, but people fight over property when somebody passes on. But you're supposed to choose whatever feels right for you, whatever wants to be right. Some people organize memorials every year, or you just come to remember this person, and it's just a way to cope. My mother's death has basically fucked up my whole life, if I may use that bad word. Fucked up my whole life, because that's where I began to feel like everybody's evil. You see, Where I grew up in the village in Alego is a lot of witchcraft and a lot of bad things, and there was a lot of tension in the polygamous family. And so when my mother died, it was very hard to accept that she died naturally, and it was easier to believe that it was witchcraft. So it really, really has affected me and affected my whole life. Begin your healing process and don't let anything, please, 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 don't let anything to don't let anybody tell you you should not cry. Please cry as much as you can. Cry anytime you can. Cry all day, all night if you can. Because every tear that you cry goes towards being able to uh, cope. Somebody who don't cry usually they hurt more. Somebody who don't cry goes into actions like depression. Sleep, baby. Sleep. They go, sorry guys, that's my baby. Somebody who don't cry, sometimes they go into depression, they go into bad things. They even sometimes go into committing suicide. I want to encourage my sisters and brothers in Palestine, in Israel, the civilians, the innocent people who have lost their loved ones to please don't give up because there is tiny hope that things will get better. Okay, I'm gonna sing for you this song, a song that should apply if you have ever lost a loved one. I wrote this song, it's an original song. I've never recorded it and then I've never sang it anywhere. It's the first time I'm singing it, okay? Don't be so sad, cause I'm leaving you. Look around, my heart is always here. My love is always here. My spirit's always here. My love is all here. I'm always here. I'm always here. I'm always here. I'm here. Baby, this is not goodbye. This is see you later on. This is not goodbye. This is see you later. See you later on in a little while. See you later on when we get to heaven. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for listening, and God bless you.